There's a person in your life, maybe a parent, maybe a coworker, maybe you, who has never bought a single stock, never read an earnings report, never even opened a brokerage account. But ask them about real estate, and suddenly they become an expert. They'll tell you, with total conviction, that property is the only real investment, that the stock market is a gamble, that owning a home is the smartest financial decision a person can make. And here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. The data shows that the people who believe this the most are often the ones who can least afford to buy a home in the first place. That's not irony, that's psychology. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. I'm Berg, and this is Blue Money Mind, where we go beyond the surface of financial behavior and look at what's really driving it. If you're new here and you like content that actually makes you think, subscribe right now, because this one is going to change the way you see something you thought you already understood. Every year, Gallup asks Americans the same question: what do you think is the best long-term investment? And for over a decade, since 2013, the answer has been the same: real estate. Not stocks, not bonds, not retirement accounts. Real estate. In a recent survey, 36% chose property as their top pick, while only 22% chose stocks and mutual funds. And 94% of Americans say that owning a home is part of the American dream. That's not a financial statistic. That's a cultural one. And culture runs much deeper than spreadsheets. But here's where it gets interesting. The people who prefer real estate the most are not the wealthy investors who own rental properties and understand leverage. They're the lower-income households. Americans making under $40,000 a year favor real estate over any other investment more than any other income group. Meanwhile, people earning over $100,000 a year, the ones who actually have the resources to buy property, overwhelmingly prefer stocks. So the people who can least access this asset are its biggest believers, and the people who can most easily buy it have moved on to something else. That asymmetry is not accidental. It's the footprint of something deeply psychological. So let's ask the right question, because most conversations about this topic frame it as a financial debate: real estate versus stocks, which one wins? But that's the wrong question entirely. The real question is, what is the human brain actually choosing when it chooses real estate? And the answer, when you look carefully, has almost nothing to do with returns, cap rates, or property appreciation. It has everything to do with fear, identity, and the invisible architecture of what we believe it means to be safe. There is a German word, Unbewusstsein. It roughly translates to the feeling of having no home. Not just physical homelessness, but the psychological state of rootlessness, of not belonging, of not having a place. And researchers who study the psychology of home ownership have noted that the American dream of owning a house is not built on ambition. It's built on the fear of that feeling. The desire to own a home doesn't come from a desire for greatness. It comes from the terror of being unmoored. From the 18th century onward, land ownership in America was the radical counterpoint to the European feudal system, where aristocrats owned everything and peasants owned nothing. The settlers who came here weren't just looking for opportunity, they were fleeing a world where you could never truly belong to a place. That wound traveled through generations. And it is still active today, embedded in the American psyche in a way that no financial argument can easily dislodge. Now here's something most people don't think about when they compare real estate to stocks. When you own stocks, you see the volatility every single day. The ticker goes up, the ticker goes down. Red numbers on a screen at 9:47 in the morning. And that is deeply, physiologically uncomfortable. But when you own a house, there is no ticker. The price of your home sits frozen in your mind from the day you bought it until the day you sell. You don't feel the dips. You don't feel the corrections. You don't feel the slow years. You only experience the final number, and you compare it to the number you paid, and it almost always looks like a win. This is what behavioral economists call myopic loss aversion, the tendency to feel losses far more intensely when we're forced to witness them in real time. And real estate hides its volatility beautifully. Stocks expose every single tremor. The actual numbers tell a very different story than most people expect. From 1990 to 2024, residential real estate in the United States appreciated by about 308%. Sounds impressive, right? The S&P 500 over that same period went up 1,325%, 4 times more. And yet people consistently choose the asset with lower returns because it generates less psychological pain. People aren't choosing the better investment, they're choosing the investment that hurts less to watch. And once you understand that, everything else starts to make sense. There's another layer here that goes even deeper. When you own stocks, you are a minority shareholder. You are placing your trust in managers you've never met, in companies whose decisions you can't influence, inside a system that operates entirely outside your reach. But when you own a house, you are in charge. You decide when to renovate. You decide when to rent it out. You can paint the walls any color you want. You can walk through every room of your investment and touch it with your hands. Now here's the irony. Real estate is actually far less liquid than stocks. You can't sell a house in 30 seconds when the market shifts. But the brain doesn't care about liquidity. The brain cares about the feeling of control. And real estate provides that feeling in a way that no brokerage account ever will. The illusion of control wins over objective flexibility, every time. And then there's the mortgage. Think about what a mortgage actually does from a behavioral psychology standpoint. Every month, automatically, a portion of your paycheck goes directly into your asset. You didn't have to decide. You didn't have to resist the temptation to spend it. You didn't have to remember. The system forces the savings for you. Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize for his work in behavioral economics, described mechanisms exactly like this as pre-commitment devices, tools that use the architecture of a system to make good behavior automatic. For millions of Americans who struggle with financial discipline, the mortgage is the only savings mechanism they actually sustain. Not because they're lazy, but because investing in stocks requires active, deliberate, repeated decisions, and that is genuinely hard for the human brain to maintain over decades. But here's where the story gets darker. In surveys, roughly 1 in 4 Americans, 25%, believe that the 2008 financial crisis was secretly orchestrated by a small group of Wall Street bankers to extend their control over the global economy. That is not a fringe conspiracy theory. That is 1 in every 4 people you interact with. And even among those who don't go that far, the emotional residue of 2008 is still present. Financial experts have described a persistent, residual skittishness among ordinary investors, a low-grade distrust of financial markets that never fully healed. For those people, real estate isn't just an investment preference. It's a rejection of a system they watched betray them, or their parents, or their neighbors. The house becomes the anti-Wall Street, something local, something visible, something that can't be shorted by a hedge fund at 3 a.m. Now here's the nuance that matters, because not everything about this preference is irrational. For someone with low financial discipline, the forced savings mechanism of a mortgage can genuinely be the best system available. For someone who grew up watching their parents build stability through homeownership, that model carries real-world evidence behind it. The problem doesn't come from preferring real estate. The problem comes when the preference transforms into identity. When someone can't question the math because questioning the house means questioning who they are. When a preference stops being a strategy and becomes an anchor. That's the line between financial behavior and psychological defense. And there's one statistic that gets repeated like a sacred truth in American financial culture. Homeowners have a median net worth of $255,000 compared to just $6,300 for renters. Ah, that gap feels like proof. It gets shared at family dinners and in personal finance articles as the definitive answer. But what it actually reflects, more than anything, is that homeownership tends to correlate with higher income, more financial stability, and better access to inherited wealth. Not that the house itself created the gap. Correlation is doing enormous work in that statistic. But confirmation bias is a powerful thing. Once people believe the house is the reason, no amount of data changes the narrative. And so the belief travels forward, parent to child, generation to generation, carried not as financial advice, but as identity. Because here's what's true, and what no chart can fully capture. A house is where your child took their first steps. It's where you cooked every Thanksgiving. It's where you feel safe when the world outside feels chaotic. No portfolio of index funds competes with that. And that's exactly why this preference is so resistant to logic. It was never built on logic. It was built on something much older, much deeper, and much more human than any rate of return. The people who prefer real estate over stocks didn't make a bad financial decision. They made a deeply human one, built on fear of rootlessness, the need for control, a distrust of invisible systems, and a cultural mythology that has been reinforced for 2.5 centuries. The real question isn't which asset is better. The real question is this: are you making your financial decisions based on evidence or based on the identity you inherited? Because sometimes those two things look exactly the same, until they don't. If this video put into words something you've been sensing for a while, about yourself or about someone close to you, leave a comment below. And if you want more content that goes this deep into the psychology behind money and behavior, subscribe to Blue Money Mind. We're just getting started.